Hey guys, Ben here and welcome back to another video on Superman Lois Season 3. Today we're going to be talking about the recent rumors going around about Lex Luthor actually coming to Superman Lois. So we're going to get into the details. There's been a casting call and also there's been suggestions that Supergirl's Lex Luthor, Jon Cryer, could be coming back as Lex in Superman Lois. So if you do go on to enjoy the video, please be sure to leave a like and a comment, subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future DCTV videos later this year. Okay, before we start this video, I want to remind you guys that I have merchandise available. You'll be supporting me if you get anything. It's very comfy, it's sustainable, and the design of all the products is very sleek and very minimal. It doesn't call a lot of attention to itself. And I know a lot of you guys are liking the merch and have been wearing it since you got it, so shout out to everyone that's got it. But also you'll be supporting the channel, so if you're a big fan, this is an amazing way to support the channel. So the link is in the description below if you want to get any merch. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into today's main topic. So as you guys know, for a while we've been thinking about who could potentially come to Superman Lois in the future. And specifically we're thinking about Arrowverse characters that have appeared in the past, because Superman Lois made it evidently clear towards the end of last season that it's actually not specifically on Earth Prime, but it is in the Arrowverse, and so basically they're on the clean slate. And the showrunner of the show, Todd Helbing, literally in interviews talked about the potential of them literally just getting characters that they like from the past and having a new actor play them and completely revamping those characters. He made it pretty clear that he is totally open to doing that, and he doesn't mind recasting characters that have previously appeared on other Arrowverse shows in Superman Lois. So he's not bothered about any of that. And so with that in mind, let's talk about the news to do with Lex Luthor. So there was a casting call sent out that I believe actually refers to Lex Luthor, and even Jon Cryer himself has suggested that this casting call is legit and about Lex. So that means that the show has got actual intentions of doing a new Lex Luthor without Jon Cryer and basically having their own for Superman Lois. This has actually been something that I've been expecting for a long time, but I wasn't certain if they would get Jon Cryer back or not. But since that episode where they confirmed that Superman Lois is not on Earth Prime, I kind of had the assumption in my head, and I'm sure most of you guys did, that if they were to ever introduce a Lex Luthor to Superman Lois, it would probably be a different version. So it wouldn't be played by Jon Cryer, because Todd Helbing has made it evidently clear that he doesn't care about continuity. And so the time has now come for us to potentially see Lex Luthor in the Arrowverse once again. And so this is the casting call that went out. So it goes like this: he's hell-bent on destroying those who he feels are responsible for ruining his life, a chilling businessman who's rogue and amoral. Then it goes on to describe the casting call. So the casting calls for someone who's in their late 40s, white and male. Also, I have to emphasize that this news is actually coming from that hashtag show, and I'm going to leave the link in the description below to the article so you guys can go ahead and read it. I have to mention that we have to take it with a grain of salt because this isn't coming from any of the trades like Deadline, Variety, TV Line or anything like that. So even though that hashtag show has previously got quite a few things right in the past, I have to mention it to you guys that it's possible this could actually be false. Okay, so also they mention that it's supposedly for a recurring guest star role, and so that would mean whoever turned out to be Lex Luthor with this new casting call would actually be in the season for maybe like 5 episodes or something like that. That's pretty much what recurring means, like someone that comes back once every 4-5 episodes at least, if not every 3 episodes or something like that. So the casting call pretty much exactly represents what Lex Luthor is in the comics and obviously in Supergirl as well. Because Jon Cryer's Supergirl version of the character never really strayed that far from the comics. It always reminded me of Lex from the comics. Like I never was like, oh, that's not something Lex would do. Everything he pretty much did was in line with Lex, and I think Jon Cryer, out of any Lex in the past, really played up to that comic book character, and I loved him. So I was kind of rooting for him to show up in Superman Lois, especially to continue that Supergirl streak of actors showing up again, like we're seeing in The Flash Season 9 with Nicole Maines, who played Nia Now and Dreamer, on Supergirl showing up in the Flash, but as we know, Superman and Lois is not into that. They hate Arrowverse continuity, they want to start afresh, and this is where they're going with Lex Luthor. So I have to say, as a Superman fan, as a Lex Luthor fan, I'm excited to see another iteration of a character because he's one of the greatest villains in Superman's lore, and you have to have it if you have a Superman show. Like, he has to come at one point, so why not introduce him now? So I'm all for this, even though I would have loved to seen Jon Cryer come back as Lex Luthor, but in Superman and Lois, even if he was playing like a different version of Lex that wasn't the same as who he was in Supergirl, so similar to what they did with Lucy Lane on the show, considering it was the same actor that came back. And so, yeah, I have no real expectations as to which actor is going to play it. I don't know who's been sending in casting tapes for this specific casting call, but it's someone that's going to be in their late 40s, they're going to be white, and they're going to be a male, which pretty much fits exactly what Lex Luthor is, and the description is no different from Lex from Supergirl, pretty much. Okay, so one of the most interesting things since this actually came out, you know, was the rumor that Jon Cryer was actually going to be coming back as Lex Luthor, but in Superman Lois. But then Jon Cryer actually tweeted that he would not in fact be playing Lex Luthor because he hasn't been asked yet, and he said the news is basically about a casting call for a new Lex Luthor for Superman Lois, which means that he's not going to be playing him this time around, but he still says Godspeed to the guy who gets it. It's a terrific show, so obviously Jon likes Superman Lois and had a great time playing Lex in the past on Supergirl, and he probably would like to come back, I would presume, because he had a great time, and I'm pretty sure there's a lot more Lex Luthor stories that they could have continued to do with Jon Cryer's version of Lex, especially because we haven't really seen him opposite the Superman Lois version of Superman played by Tyler Hoechlin, because Jon's Lex Luthor was a Lex Luthor that was specifically for Supergirl, so he was always facing off against Supergirl rather than Superman, so he was pretty much like National City based by the end of the show, because he was going against Supergirl. He had a proper vendetta like he's had with Superman in the past in the comics, and so it's going to be interesting to see this new dynamic, still technically in the Arrowverse, but with a different actor playing Lex Luthor going after Superman instead of Supergirl. But Jon confirming it on Twitter is just kind of what we needed, because we really were uncertain, and this just debunks all of the rumors. And the fact that that casting call, if it's real, is out there also confirms that, yeah, they're looking for someone new. If they wanted Cryer, they would have just asked him personally, like Todd Helbing and whoever is in charge of casting at Superman Lois would not need to put out a casting call. If they were trying to get Jon to come back, they would literally reach out to him themselves because they have those connections. But also, I have to remind you guys that the showrunner of Superman Lois, Todd Helbing, has said in the past that he is open to bringing back different Arrowverse actors who have been in different shows and appearing in Superman Lois. But his one big change is that these actors would be portraying different versions of their characters, or be playing entirely different characters, and that would just be to fit in with Superman Lois's new Superverse, or whatever they're going to be calling it. And he actually made a really good example that I talked about like many months back when he first talked about it, but he gave the example of like if Melissa Benoist was ever to return as Supergirl on Superman Lois, he said it would not be the Supergirl from the Arrowverse, it would be our version. So we would invent a new backstory for her, he said, the same way that we did for Lucy Lane, General Lane, and John Diggle. So that would be their tactic if they were to ever bring, say, Jon Cryer in. They would have him as an alternate version from Superman Lois's Earth, but still, he could play an entirely different character. He might actually get cast one day. I'm not saying this is confirmed, this is just me theorizing, but all I'm saying is don't be surprised if you see any familiar faces come back to Superman Lois in the future, because the showrunner of the show is open to it, and obviously he knows how important it is to fans to show these characters from the Arrowverse, but he is not holding back on his thoughts that he thinks he needs to completely reboot every single character if they show up on Superman Lois, because he doesn't like the idea of the multiverse, and basically he wants that clean slate so he can create a new story for Superman Lois, and it seems that's what he is exactly doing with this new Lex Luthor. Now, I have no idea how much of a big deal this new Lex Luthor is going to be, but if he is a recurring character, that means, like I mentioned earlier, he's going to be in a significant chunk of the new season. But I have to mention that Bruno Mannheim is actually going to supposedly be the main villain of at least the first half of the season, or at least the lowest half of the story, along with John Henry Irons. But there's always the possibility that they could be working in conjunction, because they are two kind of scheming businessmen, and so you could be forgiven if you thought that casting call was for Bruno Mannheim. However, Bruno Mannheim was cast a long time ago, but we'll just have to wait and see how things pan out in this new season of Superman Lois. So that pretty much does it for this video, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any Superman Lois video requests, any theories that you have, please be sure to put them in the comments down below. I'll be sure to go ahead and read them. But for now, if you want to support the channel, please be sure to leave a like and leave that comment as well. Also subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future videos. Remember, we upload pretty much daily at this point, so be sure to check the channel every single day. Also, one final reminder, click the link in the description below if you want to get some merchandise, if you want to support the channel, but also get some cool, comfy merch. So for now, you can click on the top right corner of the screen to watch my latest video, and I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.
I see